Hey there, man. Mike Yarbrough coming at you here on the Truck Talk Thursday. Welcome back to the Wolf and Iron podcast, and happy Truck Talk Thursday to you all. Hope you're doing well this week. I hope you're getting some things done. Hope you've made some memories with your family this week. If you haven't had a chance to maybe compliment your wife, talk to your kids, sit down with them over dinner, spend some time with those that are important to you, there's still time to do that. So do it while you can. So we're past the first quarter of the year. As I record this, I'm actually, let's see here, April 20, I should know, it's actually close to my birthday, April 29th. So we're almost done with April now. And I like to check in with myself. Like, how am I doing? The first quarter of the year is done. How am I doing with the goals that I set out for myself at the beginning of the year? Maybe it was to lose weight. Maybe it was to get started on that or finishing up the book that I've been working on for so long, whatever it happens to be. And if I'm not hitting those goals, why am I not doing so? So it's just a good chance. It's not what this podcast episode's about, but I just was thinking about it as I was getting started. It's a good chance to check in with yourself and to say, am I hitting my targets? And why not? What's stopping me? What's really holding me back? And have some real talk there. So I want to talk today, guys, about how we talk to our boys about the girls, ladies, women, and really just kind of go through that dynamic. I've not really come down to a solid understanding of how I want to approach this in terms of talking to you guys, but even with my own sons. Respect would be probably the biggest thing that I would say is important, and that's on top of my mind as I think about this topic. But let me kind of dig in a little bit here, and there may be some cursage happening here later on. I've got an idea of what I want to talk about. There's some stuff from my own childhood, some phrases that were thrown around about the ladies that probably weren't helpful. And so I might, I don't want your kids to learn these things, but just so you know, in case you got kids in the car and you're listening to them, listen to this with them. It's not anything terribly bad, but it's just, I don't want it to get stuck in their head like it got stuck in my head. When I talk about this whole idea of talking to your boys about girls, what I'm saying is there's kind of two tendencies. One tendency is for the upstanding Christian families to essentially ignore the fact that there's an opposite sex that your child might be attracted to, and even to help direct your son as to, or even call them out, like, what do you find attractive? Who do you think is pretty, right? Those kinds of things. And then there's the bro macho kind of way of doing that, where the dad tries to inundate his kid with all of the sexual thoughts that he has about women, and tries to kind of get his son into the frame of a man's mindset as he sees a man. And so that would be basically the extreme side of that would be the complete objectification of women 24/7, always scanning, always looking around, trying to see if you can see some booty out there or something like that. But on the flip side of that is this sort of, we don't really talk about it. It's just one of those things. Your kids are going to grow up. They're going to have some, we don't want to tempt them to think about things, right? And so you kind of go both extremes with this, and obviously neither of those are good. When I was growing up, give you guys a little background, I kind of experienced both of those extremes to some degree. On one hand, I felt like, because I was raised with my grandparents for a good bit of my life, there wasn't a whole lot of talk about girls that I thought were pretty. I would have felt pretty embarrassed or kind of weird about talking to my grandparents about it anyhow. But it would have been a good thing actually to have, looking back on it, to have as kind of just a, hey, there's a pretty girl for you, something like that. Or there's a good, when the time is right. And that's another part of this discussion. On my dad's side of the family, it was just the opposite. I'm hanging out with my dad, hanging out with my uncles, and they would say things along the lines of, I'm not even going to talk about some of the things that they would talk about women. But, a girl would walk by and they would say, look at the shitter on that critter, right? Which is a funny kind of turn of the phrase, and obviously it gets stuck in your head, especially as a kid, because it's both clever and it also calls you to look at women's butts. But obviously that's not where we want to be. And so my question to you guys is, and the question that I have for myself is, how do we talk to our boys about this? Now, some of you guys have really young kids, young men in your family, and I imagine the same thing would be true, kind of a reverse in a sense for if you have females in your house, if you're raising girls. But I think guys are more visually stimulated, and so there's more of a tendency for us to see a figure and go, wow, that's awesome, right? And at the same time, you want your kids to, I don't want them to objectify women. At the same time, you want them to know, like, this is normal. Like, there's an aspect of normal male behavior. When he sees a good looking woman, he thinks, man, she's sharp. You know, she's bringing it. And at the same time, I don't even know if that's appropriate. Now, I'm not saying that guys are supposed to be like asexual creatures. Don't get me wrong. It's just figuring out where the balance is there, right? And like I said at the very beginning of this, I think the word that comes to mind for me really in regards to this is just respect. You know, I think there's an aspect of seeing someone who is attractive, who's good looking, you know, and one, not sexualizing them. Sometimes people sexualize themselves and you can't help it, right? It's just like they're wearing those yoga pants, they're showing everything off, they're trying to be, you know, an object to be viewed. All right. So that's on them to some degree. But I think in a lot of cases, it's recognizing the beauty of people and the beauty of women and the attractiveness of them, and even helping kind of creating a culture within your family where you can talk about, hey, you know, do you like, you know, what kind of girls do you find pretty? You know, name 3 girls that you think are the prettiest girls that you know, something like that. And your mom better not be in the list. No, I'm just kidding. I guess your mom could be in the list, maybe, you know, in a not weird way. But I think being able to have those conversations with your kids is really important, because I guarantee you that in our culture, kids are getting such a mixed signal today. On the one hand, they're hearing that women don't want to be objectified. Women don't want to be thought of as sexual beings. At the same time, they're seeing a constant push, both from their social media and regular media, TV, of scantily clad women that are trying to be, you know, look at me, look at me, look at me, I'm a sexual being. And even the women that are around them, the girls that are around them, depending on their age. And so it's a very mixed message, right? And then at the same time, we're hearing these things. We've got people out there that, you know, gender doesn't matter. You can be whatever you want to be. Don't prejudge people, you know, and it's really confusing. So it's up to you guys, and it's up to me to create a culture where our sons, especially, know that it's, 1, okay to be attracted to women. 2, that there is a level of attraction that is totally appropriate, and that there is a level of objectification that is not appropriate. And there's probably going to have to be some situational things, you know, kind of like situation by situation kind of discussions that you're going to have with them. And our background is we've homeschooled. A lot of our sons have grown up with a lot of the same kids over the years, and basically in the same kind of community. One son has gone off to college, which has been really good. Then he came back. And then we've also had the younger son kind of go off to some other kind of school things. But for the most part, we've had a really close-knit community. And my fear there was that my sons were going to grow up. They're 16 and 19 now. My sons were going to grow up and they really weren't going to know how it was like, or what it was like to be attracted to a female, and, you know, how to date, because so many of the females they've grown up with have just been friends. And if you guys homeschool, if you know homeschoolers, one of the things you'll see is that there is almost like a brother sister kind of vibe that just goes on, because these kids, they grow up, you know, so long with each other, and even as they grow and they become attractive boys and attractive young ladies, it's hard to kind of overcome that whole like brother sister kind of classmates sort of thing. And so my fear was that they're going to grow up, and me having not really, you know, trying to avoid talking like my uncles talked, that was going to kind of lean more on that side of just, we don't talk about it. We don't talk about, you know, pretty girls and that kind of stuff. And, but that doesn't seem to be the case. I mean, that really hasn't been an issue. I think my kids growing up in the environment that they have has given them a chance to mature in a lot of ways that I wasn't allowed to. There's something I think in the Song of Solomon, I can't remember the verse, you guys might know it. It talks about not awakening sexuality before it's time. And I think that's really key. And I think that's something that just happens to our boys especially, but it really it's happening to our girls too, where kids are just getting inundated with sex. I mean, like the cartoons, but even Disney shows, right? These kids are like in, middle school, and they're dating and they're talking about who's hot and who's not and all this other kind of stuff. And you're like, they're awakening sexuality before it's time. And it's just not, it's not healthy, because it's really frustrating. From my perspective, it was like, okay, I was aware of sex and probably wanting sex from like the age 12 on up. And, you know, society basically got me on lockdown. I can't do anything until I get married, which is 18 plus years, right? And some people are not getting married until they're much later. Granted, people are having sex earlier than maybe ever before. Not ever before, but you know, at least in our great grandparents' generation time. But still, it's not healthy, right? And our view of sexuality is not healthy. And so, guys, it's up to us really to create that culture where our boys, our girls are able to talk about so-and-so is attractive, so-and-so has these great qualities, these great features, and to help them understand who it is that one day they might want to find somebody like that. Now, if their standards are too high, I mean, if they're always like, well, this girl on TV or this, you know, this movie star or whatever is always like, you know, the top of their list. Hey, sorry, buddy. You know, that's fake. You're probably not going to find that. And if you do find it, it's not going to be what you think it is, because once the makeup comes off or 15, 20 years go by, it's not going to be the same. So, that's not reality. But guys, you know, this isn't one of those episodes where I've got it totally locked down. I know exactly, I've got pristine advice for you guys, if that's ever an episode. This is something that I'm really calling you guys to explore on your own. And just to kind of let you know, this is something that I'm still working with as well. I've got a 16 and a 19-year-old in the house. These are kind of the conversations we're having. And it's, where do I draw the line? There's a part of me that wants to just go bro and just be like, oh man, check out that girl. Man, did you see that girl at the gym? Did you? Right? Because that's how I was raised. And there was a masculine connection there. But I don't do that. And because I know that's not going to be healthy for them. It's not going to be helpful for them. And so, anyhow, hopefully this is helpful to some degree, guys. I'd love to hear any feedback that you have. You can always give us feedback, give me feedback, and chat with the other guys in our Wolf and Iron community. You can head to wolfandiron.com/the group. That'll take you over to our Facebook group registration page where you can submit a request to be accepted into the group. We don't let everybody in. We actually keep out a lot of guys, just because they don't seem like they're a good fit. And so the result is that we've got about 3,000 really, really high caliber men over there in this group. And it's absolutely free. So you got a question about life. You got a question about marriage. You got a question like this. You want to get some feedback from the other guys. Actually, I'll probably throw this out there as a question for the group. How do you talk to your sons or your daughters about the opposite sex? And how does that break from how you're raised? Great question, right? That's the kind of conversations we're having out there. Yeah, I think you need some of that in your life. Okay. That's it, guys. Talk to you later.